Once the mixed and negative opinions were out on The Matrix Reloaded, the pressure on Revolutions to perform well was sky high. After introducing a plethora of new characters, revealing a twist that confused audiences, and ending on a major cliffhanger, this film had a lot to answer to. But the studio really didn't have much time to react to criticism, since the next and final installment was set to be released a mere 5 months after Reloaded. So, they had to carry on with their original plan. Will all these loose ends be tied up in a nice knot? Some, yes. Others? Well, no.
Keep in mind, the purpose of these analysis videos are to break down why the Matrix sequels aren't as strong as the original. There's going to be a lot of speculation and fan theory, as well as subjective opinion on how these films play out on screen. It's our opinion, and opinions are like nipples. Everyone's got them.
No.
So without further ado, let's plunge deep into the conclusion of the Matrix Trilogy. It's going to be a blast. And while we're at it, let's cut deep into the meanings of these films. We all know you get a kick out of us, but don't worry, we'll unplug any confusion you may have. We'll smash all preconceived notions.
I swear to God, Robert, if I hear one more damn pun, I'm gonna tie you to a chair and force you to watch the rave scene for the rest of your life.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
Anyway, at long last, here's the Matrix Revolutions.
Here we go.
Alright, before we get started, let's recap the previous film, skipping the massive amounts of filler. So this won't take but like 20 seconds. Here's the basic breakdown of what's important. The machines are coming to destroy Zion. Neo seeks the Oracle's help. She tells him to reach the source in order to save Zion. To do that, he needs the Keymaker. Neo acquires the Keymaker, who unlocks his path to the source where he meets the Architect. Neo is given a choice: allow Zion to be destroyed and pick 23 people to repopulate it, as it's been done 5 times before, or save Trinity and let Zion and the human race fall without repopulation. That's the one I'd pick. Neo breaks the pattern of the previous ones and instead chooses to save Trinity. Yep. Now everybody is on the path that has never been taken before, including the audience.
So with all this setup and Reloaded, what happens in Revolutions? Here's a quick summary. Neo wakes up trapped in a pristine train station on Mobile Avenue. Get it? Mobile? It's basically a case of carefully written product placement for the ExxonMobil Oil Company. Sellouts. Seraph calls Morpheus and Trinity to come meet the Oracle, but it's not the Oracle. Oh, but it is. What? She says a program called the Train Man is holding Neo hostage, so they chase him, fail, and contact his boss, the Merovingian, who, after a gun is put to his head, says, okay, side quest is done. So, we're now ready to move on to... Oh, wait, more talking with the Oracle. Meanwhile, Bane wakes up from his coma and gets stabby, and Smith absorbs everyone, including the Oracle, and a plate of cookies. After even more talking, it is decided that Neo and Trinity will go to the Machine City because his dreams told him so, while the rest of the crew run back to Zion to help the machine attack. And speaking of the machine attack, the machines attack, and a lot of people die, and a lot of VFX artists got paid, and everyone is temporarily saved. Meanwhile, Neo is blinded by Bane, smashes his head with a pipe, and he and Trinity attempt a speed run into the Machine City, but Trinity ends up shish-kebabbing herself into a very long death speech. While Zion prepares for Extermination Part 2, Neo talks to the Machine City boss, who is named, and I'm not even kidding, Deus Ex Machina. Which is basically a giant baby face in a conch shell created by... I can't even read this. To keep his side of the deal, Neo fights Smith like a couple of Super Saiyans, they have a good old mud wrestle, and Neo willingly lets Smith clone over him. Then they all blow up. The Matrix resets, Zion prepares for another orgy, Morpheus looks up and is like, oh thank fuck it's over, Neo's body gets carted away in a Jesus pose, the Oracle chats with the Architect, and that little girl from the train station hugs the Oracle, they remark on a sunset, and talk about belief. The end. What? What just happened? Well, the long and short of it is, talk, 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 action, talk, Action. Talking, 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 even more talking, talking, so much talking.
Skip a bit, brother.
Action, action, action! Talking, 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 even more talking, the end. Well, it's certainly a lot more complicated than the original film.
Of course, there were many questions along the way, so let's begin this video by answering none of them. Answering a few lingering questions left behind by Reloaded.
Number 1. I can feel them.
I can feel them.
This was probably one of the most confusing moments of the film. It actually spawned an entire fan theory that there is a Matrix within the Matrix. Granted, while this is a plausible theory and some still think that's actually what's going on, it doesn't necessarily add up to the plot presented by the Wachowskis. It's a fun theory to postulate, but its supporting evidence is quite weak. So what's actually going on here? Neo's real-world powers are actually explained by the Oracle in Revolutions, albeit in such vague terms that it borders on the confusion of the architect's speech. Here's what's happening. Basically all the machines, squiddies, drills, bug bombs, etc., are a hive mind group like the Borg, connected to the source via a wireless connection. This is how they are powered and how they communicate with one another. When Neo met the architect, he came in direct contact with the source, and thus is now wirelessly connected. Of course, the actual working mechanics of this are not really explained. I mean, are all pod people equipped with a Wi-Fi receiver? The film never tells us. But bottom line, Neo is now a total human and machine hybrid. His human brain is connected to the same source as the squiddies, and thus he's able to connect with them, hack them, and overload them into self-destruction. All of this being the result of his unique choice to save Trinity. Again, this is kind of an important thing to explain to your audience, but rather than spell it out with exposition like Councilman Hammond did, seriously, it took like 4 phrasings for Neo to get a simple ironic concept, the Oracle just pushes past it as if it's not important to the story.
The source. That's what you felt when you touched those sentinels, but you weren't ready for it.
It's actually kind of a key plot point. Thanks for nothing, Oracle. You can shove your candy and your cookies right up your ass.
Number 2. Bane. Nope, not that one.
Gotham is yours!
God damn it, Robert, but...
If I'm not me, then...
Yeah, there we go.
Who am I?
That one. So the concept of Smith infecting a red pill and then that person waking up with an infected brain is a pretty neat twist, even if it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it's interesting nonetheless. Something else to note here, the actor does a pretty good Hugo Weaving impression.
You have only one choice. The ring must be destroyed.
There's even a little bit of irony in Smith's decision to infect Bane. Do you remember when he compared the human race to being a virus? Well, now he's doing the exact same thing that he despised, even if it's a bit on the nose. More on this later, though. However, with Bane, we again run into the problem of juggling way too many characters. His screen presence in Reloaded is so oddly brief. Between the time when we last see him here to the final shot, nearly an hour and a half has gone by. Plus he's seen upside down, so that certainly doesn't help, thanks. There's a symbolic reason why the Wachowskis chose this shot despite the fact that it's a little visually confusing. First, since the films have a lot of Christ imagery, if Neo is Jesus, then Bane/Smith is the Antichrist, which is typically symbolized by the upside-down cross. Next, this image mirrors Neo's own rebirth from the first film, tying them closer together in that image. But despite this symbolism, the audience has more or less forgotten who Bane is at the point, so why is he in this story? Bane exists solely to sabotage the human surprise attack on the machine army, which strangely is done off-screen and Reloaded.
An EMP was triggered before we can get in position.
5 ships were instantly down.
It's a slaughter.
And as a little aside, Bane's sabotage of the ship attack is actually in the game. Sort of.
What was that?
I think it was an EMP. Sir, we've just lost contact with the Icarus.
What?
And the Novalis. And the Caduceus.
How is that possible?
Really, why do they shy away from the story point so much? This is kind of crucial to the plot. Oh well.
His next purpose is to blind Neo. That's it. Once he's killed, we don't really care anymore. So here's a question. What if the character who was infected by Smith was actually somebody we cared about? Like, say, Morpheus. Neo would then be faced with a very difficult decision to either kill his mentor or get zapped to the fucking face. which would change the dynamic of the Nebuchadnezzar team, plus test his own morals. Let's face it, for 1/4 of the first film, we watched Neo and Trinity work the impossible to save his life. How tragic would it be if Neo was ultimately forced to undo all of that, giving Smith a winning point in the battle for humanity's soul? It also would have been far more dynamic of an ending for Morpheus' character. And speaking of which...
Number 3. Morpheus.
Morpheus.
If it seems like Morpheus was underutilized in Reloaded, then in this film it's like he's been downgraded to one of the many secondary characters. Instead of being a leader, Morpheus takes on a far more passive role. Sure, you could chalk it up to defeat. I mean, his ship was blown up in a previous film after all, but his best friend is in a coma, stuck somewhere deep within the Matrix. What we have here is a parallel setup of what Neo experienced in the first film. Morpheus should take charge here and lead a team to rescue Neo. And to a degree this happens, and visually the Wachowskis are crafting visual parallels here, but when you really look at it, it's the others that are actually the ones taking charge of the mission. Seraph calls Morpheus to meet with the Oracle directly sends Morpheus on a mission to rescue Neo instead of showing him the door that he must choose to walk through. Seraph takes point on the shootout and in negotiating with the Merovingian, and it's Trinity who takes control of the final ultimatum. Where the hell is Morpheus in all this? Where is our leader? Our sensei? We need more Morpheus. Hey, you know, I wonder if he goes camping. Does he make some Morpheus? I'll just go ahead and dislike the video for you.
You're killing me, Smalls.
So after losing his faith in the prophecy, he seems completely inert. This should actually be an opportunity for Morpheus to grow as a character. What if instead of meekly asking the Oracle why she's doing what she's doing, Morpheus flat out pulls a gun on her and demands her to explain why she lied? After some suspenseful banter, he could then make up his mind to write his own path. These films are about choice and free will, right?
Later, the two remaining ship teams have split up, Neo and Trinity and Bane on the Logos, heading to the Machine City, the rest on the Hammer heading back to Zion to attempt to defend it from the Machine attack. Here we would have another good opportunity to see Morpheus shine and take point as a leader, but we've instead given that purpose to Niobe, since she's the one driving the ship and calling the shots.
Morpheus, take his place!
This isn't a complaint about her character at all, don't get us wrong, we like Niobe quite a bit. It's awesome to see her pulling these insane maneuvers through the maintenance tunnels, but once again we run into the problem of taking one of the main characters and essentially giving them nothing to do. Morpheus helps her co-pilot the ship, which does make sense given that they have to navigate this extremely complex maintenance tunnel, and she needs all the help that she can get. But the problem is, Morpheus from the first film is very different from the Morpheus we have during this scene, where he is trying desperately to keep up with Niobe.
Come on, keep up!
Try! And essentially is just having to be told what to do. So, they finally reach Zion, plow through the gate, and blow their EMP at the last second. Everybody saved for about 5 minutes. From this point on, the Morpheus character is done. The only thing that he has left to contribute to this story is staring up at the pipes and wondering how humans built them all those years ago.
Is this real?
I suppose he does have one final moment of trying to calm the Council of Elders with his feelings and faith and such, but then he just sits down and waits for approximately 69 minutes of screen time. What a way for a beloved character to go. A character so important that 1/4 of the first movie was dedicated to saving him. A character who not only has had nothing major to do in the third film, yet's printed all over the damn posters because marketing.
Lawrence Fishburne. It's a man. That is an actor. That is an actor unparalleled.
This is a great example of just how rushed these scripts were.
Number 4. Kid. Number 4. Kid. Number 4. Kid. Shut up! So yeah. Number 4. Kid. To be perfectly honest, the purpose of this character is baffling. He spends most of Reloaded fanboying around Neo only to disappear from the plot and be reintroduced as a naive young army recruit who gets inspired to fight back. His one crucial plot moment is opening the Zion dock doors to let Morpheus and Niobe in to blow the EMP. Again, did this one moment require an entirely new character? This scene could have been given to Z, who actually does help Kid with opening the dock doors. But we never see them interact before or after the scene, so what exactly is the point of them coming together? Focus should have been funneled to one of these characters instead. Or instead to Locke. Or Mifune. Or Ripley.
Bitch!
But who is Kid exactly? This character's backstory is covered in the Animatrix. A young computer hacker finds Neo, much like how Neo finds Morpheus, and then takes a literal leap of faith out of the Matrix and into the real world. By the way, is this a case of artistic license or discontinuity? Kid is never seen taking the red pill tracker, so how was he able to accomplish this disconnect from the Matrix? If the Wachowskis considered this short film to be canon, shouldn't the rules of their world be consistent? Well anyway, this goes back to our previous video's point about audiences needing to seek out tertiary stories outside of the main films. These Animatrix shorts should be purely supplemental and not crucial to understanding the characters of the Matrix sequels. But even still, what's the point of his backstory and appearance in Reloaded and Revolutions? Other than opening the dock door, it must be to put us into the point of view of a devout follower who passionately worships his savior, Jesus H. Neo Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, that's me.
But again, this has us focusing on far too many characters. Either delete him completely, or give his character more of an arc that directly affects the plot in more major ways.
Number 5. Lockefune. That's a dumb name. As stated in our last video, Commander Locke and Captain Mifune don't really serve much of a purpose other than to be the main characters of Zion while our main cast is out in the sewers. We suggested that a more economical approach might have been to combine the two into one character, so that we could focus all of our character development on one person, and thus, care a little bit more about who these people are. As it stands, Mifune has no character arc. He starts out tough as nails and seemingly not really afraid of anything, and that's pretty much how he dies, sacrificing himself for humanity, delivering some last-second inspiration to the kid. How much more impactful would that have been if Mifune had spent both films training Kid as a recruit? Sure, Kid's the runt of the litter, but Mifune has a soft spot for him under all that thick skin. It's almost as if that's what the Wachowskis were going for, but because of the short writing process, what we got was this.
What's a pod-born pencil neck like you doing volunteering for my corps?
Commander Locke has a minuscule arc to his story, though about 98% of his character is simply just sticking to one objective stubbornly, never deciding to change. Drop everything to defend the dock, no matter what the cost. We get a grand total of 2 moments where he accepts Morpheus's plan. So the first instance of him accepting Morpheus's plan is by letting the hammer blow the EMP in the dock. Then at the very, very end, when the machines leave Zion, it's a subtle change, but if you look very closely, it's right around there. Right there. But seriously, this character is needless and stupid and really just exists to be a roadblock for Morpheus and company and drum up some unnecessary drama when, in reality, the whole machines coming to murder every human with giant spider tentacles. That is to say, the machines have giant spider tentacles, not all the humans have giant spider tentacles. That would be a very different movie. So, whatever. Let's just combine these two people into one character. We'll call them Lockefune because we're not very creative. Anyway, strap in. Robert's about to take you on some fan-produced plot adjustments. Robert's also a pretty cool guy, and wait a minute. Robert, did you write this?
Lockefune is an experienced military leader who had a harrowing close call when he was a young recruit. This makes the machines his personal white whale. After the transmissions from the Osiris reveal that the machines are sending everything they've got to destroy Zion, Lockefune goes overboard. Granted, he's not necessarily wrong, but he's clearly acting on emotion, just like a human would. He orders a military draft and opens the doors for younger volunteers, which the council at first is against, but the necessity of survival leaves them no choice. The crew of the Nebuchadnezzar vehemently objects to the council's decision, and they head out to take care of the matter themselves. The Logos and this guy also follow suit. Meanwhile in Zion, Lockfune's plan is underway. We are seeing men and women of varying ages being conscripted into this defense army. But Lockefune is too focused on his objective to have second thoughts about the situation he's created. And now enter Kid, a young, feeble type who actually volunteers rather than getting drafted. He performs the worst out of all the other recruits, but due to his faith in Neo, his will is the strongest. This makes Lockefune both despise and admire him. In a way, he's much like he was when he was younger, before the incident that changed him. And for the first time, Lockefune is having doubts that his plan is the right thing to do. The machines are about to reach the dock, and Lockefune takes his seat in the war room. But just for a second, he hears Kid's voice sounding off on the APU radio. He's suited up and ready for combat, and for a moment, Lockefune thinks, maybe I should be out there with them. The battle plays out as seen in the film, but this time Kid is fighting in the APU from the start. Eventually, it's just him and one other APU soldier, and just as Kid's wingman is taken out and a squiddy approaches, Lockefune blows it away with an APU that he's commandeered from a dead soldier. He is now symbolically protecting and saving the innocence that he lost in his youth. He orders Kid to open the dock gate while taking out an enormous amount of sentinels, and he is eventually overwhelmed. Kid reaches the gate, is almost killed again, but saved by Z. He opens the gate, the EMP is ignited, and both Z and Kid say their final words to Lockefune, who now understands the power of faith that they both possess. This also opens up avenues for other characters. Now that Zion is without a military leader and the machines are back for round 2, who else should take Lockfune's place but motherfucking Morpheus?
At last.
It just goes to show that had extra time been spent on even just one character, it affects multiple arcs and makes the whole story a little bit more well-rounded. But look, we hear what you're saying. Guys, why did it take you almost 5 years to put out the Revolutions video? And that's a very reasonable thing to ask. It's also very reasonable to ask why we're complaining so much about throwaway characters. I mean, the first Matrix had plenty. What makes these any different? Well, did the first film dedicate major screen time away from our main cast to focus on them? No. They simply helped to push the plot forward and to ramp up the tension where necessary. Also, to talk about snot soup.
You know, a bowl of snot.
What we're saying here is, if you're going to focus on secondary characters this much, then develop them a little bit. Make them people that we care about. Make it worth our time. Otherwise, all this time that we spend with them is ultimately boring despite the dazzling visuals and sound. Before we get into further issues with plot and character of Revolutions, let's take a look at the sequels from the perspective of filmmaking aesthetics. 1. Visuals. Let's start with the visual look. In our analysis of Reloaded, we discussed how the first film's bullet time was so awe-inspiring due to the practical nature of the effect. In these films, everything is just purely CGI. The sense of wonder is lost a little bit. The same can be said with the costuming, or rather how the costumes are handled from scene to scene. We've already mentioned how every single red pill is wearing their sunglasses indoors in front of their friends at night. Sometimes this is effective, such as with Morpheus' introduction in the first film. His glasses provide a very visual sense of the tension that we're supposed to feel in the scene. He seems very threatening, and we're not 100% sure yet if we can even trust him. But later in the film, he ditches the glasses, either out of necessity or because he's around friendly company, or because he can't fucking see anything. But imagine if no one was wearing sunglasses in this meeting, and then Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus show up wearing theirs. It would certainly make them stand out from the others. In the first film, we also see how, as the film progresses, the costumes become more and more filthy and dirty, ripped and discarded. There are some moments like these in the sequels for sure, but for the most part, everybody is pristine from beginning to end. Why does any of this even matter? Well, it further detaches us from any sense of danger or vulnerability. If their clothes aren't even getting hurt, well, then they probably aren't either. Compare this with something like Die Hard, for example, where by the end of the movie, John McClane is completely beat to shit. And we feel as an audience how much he has struggled to get to this point.
I felt for those extras because most of them all were wearing their own costumes, and there's a lot of latex and a lot of PVC, and a couple people fainted and had to people were allergic to the latex and realized it too late, after they were in it.
What are their names?
Andy and Larry Wachowski.
Oh, never heard of them.
Another issue to bring up is color grading. Color grading is the process of recoloring a film in post-production to further amplify a color palette chosen for the story. A great example of this is Mad Max Fury Road, which opted to enhance its orange and teal colors to create an extremely contrasted color space, rather than the more common washed out look from films like Book of Eli. Many older films have had their colors retimed years after release, such as The Empire Strikes Back, Blade Runner, and so forth. However, if you compare the DVD and Blu-ray of The Matrix, something seems a bit off, doesn't it? Take a look at Neo's stubble in this scene. Was it always so green? I've been debating with my own memories of seeing it in the cinema since this Blu-ray was released, but now I finally have the answer. Recently, there was a screening at Tarantino's own theater, the New Beverly in Los Angeles. The original 35mm print of The Matrix that played in theaters in 1999. And sure enough, I can confirm, the color scene on the DVD is the accurate color space of the film. So, why is the color so horribly green in the Matrix Blu-ray release? Well, considering that the colors overall in the sequels are much richer with greater luminance contrast, the Wachowskis retimed the original film to make it match the sequels better. While some prefer the retimed contrastier Blu-ray version, as a quote-unquote film purist, I prefer to watch the version closest to how it appeared in theaters, and find it rather annoying that they retconned the original film's color just for the sake of the sequels.
2. Performance. The first Matrix had a unique acting style that rode a razor's edge between subtlety and blandness. Everyone likes to poke fun at Keanu Reeves' often vacant expression and stilted line readings, but it works for this story. But if you want to hear more about that, just go check out our video on the first film. But what about the rest of the cast? Most of the main characters have a kind of mechanized stillness in their major dialogue scenes, but again, this is usually directed towards Neo while inside the Matrix. The Chow Hall scene and Morpheus' capture scene are good examples of them showing a wider range of emotions, but everyone remembers the more expository scenes, which can have a kind of dryness in their delivery. We could chalk this up to one of a few reasons. 1. Because Neo is speaking with enlightened beings, and they have a weird elegance to the way they carry themselves, much like the elves do in Lord of the Rings. 2. This helps the Oracle's warmer, more motherly tones stand out. Or 3. It could just simply be the aesthetic that the Wachowskis liked. Either way, this seems to be exaggerated to an unwelcome degree in the sequels. Take Smith, for instance. His deep, drawn-out speech pattern was actually inspired by the way the Wachowskis spoke.
We like, John Woo movies and books that are, science fiction that is about the sort of nature of reality.
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why do you persist?
However, where it's menacing in the first films, in the sequels it's just batshit crazy.
I'm sorry, this is a dead end.
You like what I've done with the place?
Cookies need love, like everything does.
Also, there's this. Honestly, this looks like a case of Hugo Weaving expecting them to call cut about 10 seconds before they did.
3. Dialogue. Besides the overly cryptic architect sequence, a lot of dialogue in the sequels are unnecessarily complex and drawn out. For instance, when Morpheus and Trinity meet the Oracle for the first time, she greets them, proceeds to ignore the elephant in the room, and prompts them to start asking questions.
One thing I've learned in all my years is that nothing ever works out just the way you want it to.
Who are you?
I'm the Oracle.
Why is this necessary? Is this just the Oracle's style of communication? Well, no, this actually occurs a lot in the sequels with other characters. There seems to be a pattern of characters making half statements, waiting for someone to ask for clarification, then they give their answer.
I wanted to be sure.
Sure of what?
I know what I have to do.
What?
There's no easy way to say this, so I'll just say it.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Now, this is admittedly a Matrix trope, and it's certainly all over the first film, but after a while, and especially when the stakes are high, this becomes an irritating style of speaking that makes scenes feel longer than necessary.
4. Scene flow. How a scene begins and ends, and how multiple scenes transition from one to the other, is an art form in and of itself. This includes how a scene is blocked, what level of energy the scene has within the whole story, even the length of the scene. One of the best examples of scene flow that we can think of is in The Empire Strikes Back. Have you ever noticed that when a scene starts, people are either in the middle of a task or a conversation?
Why don't you take this apart now? I'm trying to get us out of here. Look, I'm sure it's delicious. I just don't understand why we can't see Yoda now.
No, I don't have a landing permit.
This keeps the energy flowing naturally and helps to pull us into a very realistic world despite its sci-fi setting. The original Matrix doesn't follow this technique necessarily, but the film knows exactly how to start and end a scene. It feels deliberate. The same can't be necessarily said about the sequels. Admittedly, Revolutions does handle this better than Reloaded did, particularly during the cross-cutting of the dock battle.
The best description about scene flow that I can find is probably from Sid Field's amazing book, Screenplay, The Foundations of Screenwriting, in which he says, the purpose of a scene is twofold. Either it moves the story forward, or it reveals information about the character. Now if we take these 2 points, a lot of checkmarks happen in the first film, and quite a bit happens in the second and third films, but what the first film does so well is combine these 2 points. We learn a lot about characters and about the world we're in while moving the story forward. This is efficient and great storytelling. Meanwhile, in the sequels, well, there's a lot of filler, either with just talking about philosophy or having pointless fighting. Overall, it's a strange irony that many of the very aesthetics that defines The Matrix is also to the detriment of the sequels. Where the first film revolutionized the sci-fi action genre, the sequels have little to no impact. And that's more irony than the iron in the APU chassis. Thank you, I know, terrible. The Oracle, Seraph, the Merovingian, Persephone, the twins, the Keymaker, the Architect, the Trainman, Sati and her parents, Agent What's-His-Nuts. These are the primary characters our heroes have to interact with inside of the Matrix. But did you ever notice that all of these characters are computer programs? Each one of them happens to serve a purpose. Oh, thanks, Smith. Each one of them serves some kind of purpose. Stop it! Each one of them serves some kind of function within the Matrix program, a function predestined by the Architect. This is all well and good, but where are the actual humans in this story?
Sure, we have humans back home in Zion and out on the ships, but within the actual Matrix program itself, there are only a handful of actual humans to be seen. This creative choice gives these films a kind of dehumanizing lack of edge to them. For example, when the Keymaker sacrifices his life for Neo, it's just the digital life of a computer program.
Fatality.
Game over, yeah!
What if it was an actual person with a fully fleshed out and interesting past? What if he was a man who was offered the red pill and the blue pill, but refused to take either, leaving him fully aware of what was going on around him, yet trapped in this world? Yeah, they never told you about that option, did they?
We would have told you to shove that red pill right up your ass!
Actually, I wonder, do you think they actually make suppository versions of these pills?
No.
And what about the Merovingian? Wouldn't it be more interesting if he is a human who is trafficking computer programs around? This sort of illegal activity would not be condoned by the human resistance. So instead of living in Zion or replugging himself into the minefields, he chooses to live somewhere out there in the real world, connected to a private makeshift cranial jack, living and working in his own personal fantasy world in a sort of second life. This opens the floodgates to character potential. What if before he escaped the Matrix, he was a passive, meek do-gooder who only followed the rules, and that this powerful Merovingian persona is him living out his fantasy? See, this makes him a far more interesting character rather than just a computer program who is designed to do these illegal things.
There's no conflict. He is what he is. He's a program.
One of the main things that led to the first film being so intense is that the main characters we follow are all very human. They are vulnerable beings who all have a past. We see them hurt, we see them in danger, and in some cases we even see them die. These programs remain more or less the same. Even random background people from the first film are more human than the programs here. Remember this guy?
No, just... shit! That's my phone!
Do you ever wonder what happened to him after Smith was done possessing his body? Did the business deal he was working over the phone fail because Neo took his phone away? What if he lost his job after that? What if his memory loss during Smith's possession caused him to question everything around him, therefore leading him to the truth behind the Matrix? The Wachowskis could then have tacked on another abstract Christ parallel to Neo where Jesus touches the blind man, who can now see. Well, sure, we're just kind of making stuff up here, but it would certainly be more interesting than this.
I have sampled every language. French is my favorite. Fantastic language.
We don't even get a scene where the pod people are waking up in droves. What an incredibly inspiring moment that might have been. Countless humans reborn into this brave new world.
Either way, the Wachowskis almost seem to be making a point by having nothing but programs featured within the Matrix. Maybe it's to contrast the real humans in Zion? Well, they already do a good job of that with the Squiddies and other machines. So why not give these programs more human traits? This is exactly what made Agent Smith such a fascinating character to watch in the first film. He's experiencing some very human emotions. Remember this scene?
I hate this place. It's the smell.
This character trait is actually hinted very early on in the film.
And you help your landlady carry out her garbage.
He really despises the natural filth that comes with being a real flesh and blood human. Why would a machine care about a simulated smell when he knows very well that it's just simply electrical signals interpreted by his AI brain? Because it's a fascinating idea to ponder, that over time a machine can develop emotions naturally, just like humans can. Hell, that's the whole plot to Blade Runner. With this, he is more than just a program with a singular purpose, and thus is more interesting.
Furthermore, as mentioned many times before, the actual humans of the story are incredibly machine-like. There are fleeting moments of humanity that occur, but their delivery is so dry that it fails to stick.
Niobe.
Morpheus.
If it were up to me, counselor, I'd take every man, woman, and child, put a gun in their hand, and march them straight into that dock.
Perhaps it is best that it is not up to you.
I'm scared, Trent.
So am I. Took me 10 minutes to buckle up one boot.
Wait a minute, it took you 10 minutes to lace up your boot because you were under so much duress? I mean, if that's really true and you're not exaggerating, then you're hiding a ton of fear very well.
Anyway, while Robert's in the background nitpicking, point is, these are genuine human moments that it probably would have been better for us to see as an audience instead of just hear about after the fact. This is also a huge reason why Trinity's death scene ultimately falls flat on its face. How many of you while watching this just wanted her to die already so that you could get on with the rest of the story? Admittedly, we sure as hell did. This is the kiss of death for any story. We have a main character whom we've been following through 3 films, mortally wounded.
And for the second time.
Using her last moments to express her love for Neo. And we don't give a shit. Compare this to Boromir from The Fellowship of the Ring. We meet this character a little under halfway through the film. During the entire journey, we laugh with him, understand his struggle, grow to hate him, and applaud his return to heroism, only to have him die a slow, brutal death at the hands of a monster. During his last moments, he expresses his regret and finally pledges his loyalty to his king, Aragorn. This scene is incredible, and we've had far less screen time with Boromir than with Trinity.
So what's the magic that's missing here? Give your main characters moments of humanity, whether that's fear, longing, moments of weakness, doubt, heroism, and yes, they're actually all shown here, but without any sticking impact. So maybe it comes down to dry delivery, or the fact that there's too much going on in the story, or that a woman literally orgasming over a cake was given way more attention. So, with all that being said, what's the point of having so many non-human and inhuman characters in this story? Well, if anything, it does show us that something suspicious seems to be happening within the world of the Matrix. And it seems to do with a little thing called
love.
You could say that.
Now it's time for a detailed look at the plot and its many problems. After the Oracle sends Neo off on his mission to the Source and Reloaded, she disappears from the story until she calls for Morpheus and Trinity in Revolutions. This moment is initially surprising because the Oracle is a completely different person now. Well, what's going on?
I mean, what the hell is going on?
Well, as mentioned before, in real life, Actress Gloria Foster died before she could film her final scenes, and the role was filmed by a fellow actress and friend, Mary Alice.
I got the job.
Don't hit me.
Brother,
Don't hit
brother
me.
done put me through all these games.
This is maybe a case where we don't really need an explanation. But in any case, there are plenty of movies out there that have had an actor or an actress replaced and never said anything about it, and it works just fine. The most famous case I can think of, just off the top of my head, is when Mark Ruffalo replaced Ed Norton as Bruce Banner in The Avengers. Nobody seemed to care too much after the film had come out. But how does the film explain why this is a completely different person now?
I made a choice, and that choice cost me more than I wanted it to.
What choice?
To help you, to guide Neo.
Well, I certainly can't get anything from that. Once again, in order to understand this story point, you have to look outside the films proper, and you know how we feel about that.
I hate it! I'm going to hell!
This is actually all explained in the Enter the Matrix video game.
Can you tell me what happened to you?
2 programs that I trusted sold the termination code of my original shell to the Merovingian.
Basically, Ramachandra, this guy, made a deal with the Merovingian and the Oracle. He wanted to protect his child, Sati, from deletion and grant her safe passage into the Oracle's care. But, in order to do that, he gave the Merovingian the termination code to her outer shell, which changed her physical appearance. In basic terms, the Oracle believes so strongly that Sati is important enough to protect that she sacrificed a version of her own program, kind of like going from Windows 10 to 98, or the other way around. I don't know. This analogy has gone off the rails.
You are a bastard.
Of course, this does raise a few questions. Why did the Merovingian agree to this when what he really wants are her eyes?
Something I have wanted ever since I first came here. What? The eyes of the Oracle.
Also, why does the Merovingian care if her outer shell is deleted? Did the Merovingian think that he was getting more and the Oracle lied and only gave up the code to her outer shell? What exactly does Ramachandra know about this deal? Is he in on the deception, if there is any? Were we expected to recognize his face from the fleeting shot between the 2 movies?
I know you.
Yes, in the restaurant of the Frenchman.
And more importantly, why didn't we see any of this? Also, why is Sati even so important? Hang on tight for now, we'll get back to that later.
But this whole change in appearance unfortunately clouds the real plotline that has been happening underneath all 3 films: the Architect versus the Oracle. The Oracle claims that if the Architect's purpose is to balance the equation, then her purpose is to unbalance it. What does that mean exactly? Well, if you were able to decipher just what the hell the Architect was getting at, his equation, as she puts it, is predictable human behavior. The first version of the Matrix, the perfect world, failed, and despite the Architect mocking Neo's human emotions, he simply cannot understand them. That's where the Oracle comes in. She both introduces and manipulates free will in the Matrix, thus stabilizing the system, like the yin to his yang. But now she's going further with that. She's breaking another one of the Architect's constructs, and it's the pattern of the Matrix gets populated, an anomaly emerges, the anomaly chooses to reset the Matrix while the machines destroy Zion. We start from scratch with the few remaining Zion humans left alive. Lather, rinse, repeat. So how does the Oracle unbalance this equation of sorts? By introducing, you guessed it, love! Jesus Christ. Love.
Love.
Think about the phrase you hear repeated about the Oracle.
She told you exactly what you needed to hear.
What did she tell you?
Exactly what I needed to hear.
She told me exactly what you needed to hear. This is hugely important because what she tells individuals all leads to the same conclusion. She tells Morpheus he would find the one. She tells Neo either he or Morpheus will die. And she tells Trinity she will fall in love with the dead man.
With the dead man.
So this, well, for lack of better words, Trinity of Fortunes leads our main characters to not only inevitably create the one, but to entangle the one with love. In fact, if you pay close attention, the Oracle actually plants the idea of love even before she gives her prophecy to Neo.
I can see why she likes you.
Who?
I have to admit, it took me years to even notice this. That is subtlety. Because Neo is in love, he chooses differently than the previous ones, therefore unbalancing the architect's equation. This makes the Oracle the ultimate matchmaker.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match.
Gotta tell you, that Oracle's one tricky hacker. She homebrewed her own cheat codes and won the game in her favor. Good thing the architect didn't straight up rage quit.
I told you to shut up!
So now we know what the Oracle's been up to this entire time. She understands that the One is an inevitable product of the Matrix and uses this anomaly to further break the architect's construct by adding a dash of love into the mix, or something. So what does this say about our main protagonist, Neo? Is he actually a puppet in the grand scheme of things? Well, at first, yes. He's been groomed into the role of Messiah through various means and prophecies, but it's the addition of love that gives him free will. Love is what makes him willingly break the pattern of previous ones and unbalances the equation. But have you noticed that love and other human emotions seem to be spreading throughout the Matrix? Persephone is exhibiting a raging jealousy, lust and vengeance, very human emotions for a program, which directly affect the Merovingian.
Then, of course, we have Smith. Earlier, we discussed how Smith is feeling surprisingly human emotions from the start, which is evidenced by his aversion to smelly humans. And what did he originally want? He wants out of the Matrix. He wants to be free of the burden from feeling feelings.
Disgusting.
But after being defeated by Neo, he's suddenly given a sense of purpose that he obsesses over, and in doing so, becomes the very thing he despises.
A virus.
However, there's a weird hole in this newfound obsession. Remember when he states,
"Without purpose, we would not exist."
But then later in Revolutions, he says,
"The purpose of life is to end."
So what Smith is saying is that we exist by having the purpose to not exist.
What? What are you talking about?
What did I just say?
After Neo's swan dive trick, Smith was reborn into a diehard nihilist. Basically, he views life as meaningless and without purpose.
Temporary constructs of a feeble human intellect trying desperately to justify an existence that is without meaning or purpose.
In the first film, this was only an aspect of his personality, but now it seems to define him. So why did the Wachowskis hammer in this heavy philosophy into Smith? Well, he is Neo's opposite, his negative.
You're opposite, you're negative.
Yeah, thanks, Oracle. I just said that.
I still love candy.
Okay. Neo's journey is to truly discover that what gives life its purpose and meaning is free will, vis-a-vis choice.
The time has come to make a choice.
Choice.
Choice. Choice.
What choice?
Choice. Choice.
Choice. Choice. Choice.
Choice.
Choice.
Choice. The problem is choice. 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 The problem is choice.
Choice. Choice.
Choice.
Choice. Choice. Choice. Choice is choice.
Choice.
Choice. Choice. Choice.
Neo's power of choice leads him to take the red pill, to save Morpheus, thus leading to his own enlightenment, to save Trinity and defy the Architect's expectations, and now to sacrifice himself to save humanity. And since part of Neo's code got embedded into Smith, he too now has a compulsion to resist the rules.
I knew the rules, I understood what I was supposed to do, but I didn't.
So could this all mean that secretly, between the lines, underneath the surface, behind the curtain, under our very noses, that Smith is actually the One?
Can't be.
Matt Pat of Film Theory delved into this theory very deeply and does make some compelling arguments for it. The link to his video is in the description below, but here are the important points. Film Theory's case for Smith being the One is tied to the prophecy stated in the first film. Smith is a man born or reborn inside. He can change the Matrix as he sees fit. Because of his emotions, he is the anomaly, not Neo. And because of his fight, merging, deletion with Neo, he's the unwitting savior of humanity. This is actually really compelling, but to us, this doesn't 100% hold up. While it's true that Smith was born inside the Matrix and changes the digital world around him, the same can be said about the Architect, or any of the agents that transform windows to brick walls and jump long distances. or the spoon-bending child with the adorable English accent?
There is no spoon.
The fuck you talking about?
To the point of his emotions making him the anomaly, well, this is happening to a lot of the other programs in the story, so this doesn't apply. As far as his unwitting savior status because of what happens at the end, let's get more into that.
What exactly happens to Smith at the end of the film? He can suddenly fly, he merges with Neo and then turns into the sun and explodes. Hey, I guess it's a good thing they were all wearing their sunglasses at night, huh? Oh wait, they all died. His newfound flying powers are a direct result of merging with the Oracle, as parts of her code are intermixing with his. This concept is further hinted at when he starts unintentionally quoting the Oracle.
Everything that has a beginning has an end, Neo.
Earlier in the film, he quotes Sati after merging with her.
Cookies need love, like everything does.
I wonder if we'd get some spicy Merovingian quotes if he merged with him.
It's like wiping your ass with silk. I love it.
As far as how Smith is destroyed, the simple explanation is that because Neo is jacking into the Matrix through the Machine City, he is granted access to the source code through his body. When Smith merges with him, the machines can now directly send their kill code to Smith, which then causes a chain reaction and effectively allows them to reboot the Matrix, or reload the Matrix. I guess it wasn't so schlocky after all, except it was, in every sense of the word. So is Smith the one? In our opinion, nah. It's kind of a cool theory and might be correct. Decide for yourself. Use your own free will. Make whatever choice you believe. Some other bullshit like that.
Beyond Smith, there's a very particular set of characters who are exhibiting free will and choice beyond their intended programming. Ramachandra and Kamala are two programs who are risking everything to save their daughter Sati from deletion. They are going against their intended programming, which is...
I am the power plant systems manager for recycling operations. My wife is an interactive software programmer. She is highly creative.
In other words, wait, is he the one in charge of liquefying the dead to be fed intravenously to the living? You are one sick fuck, Rama.
Goodness, I apologize.
And Sati is... well, her programming is actually never truly defined, but since the Matrix didn't design her, she has no purpose. Hence why she's up for deletion. And besides, why are they risking so much to save her?
I love my daughter very much, but where we are from, that is not enough.
Machines feeling love? Yep. Now their line deliveries may be sterile and machine-like, but they actually understand love. This is a huge development in the plot and one of the most important aspects of the story. But unfortunately, we only get this crucial scene sandwiched between the two sequels. In fact, we actually catch a fleeting glimpse of Ramachandra in Reloaded. Honestly, this was not presented well at all. So, we have a unique program born in the Matrix between two other programs. One that deals with recycling human bodies, and one that is a creative type. Sati is the combination of body and mind together in harmony, and at the end of the film is seen creating a beautiful sunset for all to see. Wait a minute. A program born inside of the Matrix who can remake the Matrix as she sees fit? Could Sati be the actual one?
Oh my god!
Well, don't put on all your tinfoil hats just yet, but leave them right next to you. We'll need them. We only catch a brief glance of this character, but there is a reason the Wachowskis put so much emphasis on her. Why does the Oracle protect her while dismissing the other potentials from the first film? Where's the Spoon Kid? Because Sati is a program of utmost importance. Look at her first appearance in the train station. She's literally glowing, appearing very godlike. From what the film hints, Sati is the inevitable product of free will in the Matrix. A truly pure, sentient being born from two programs of their own free will and choice. She's the future, the next step in evolution. But again, why is this whole subplot saved for the third film? The Wachowskis could have started building this in Reloaded, allowing more development with Sati and her parents. Or, better yet, why have her parents as characters at all? Instead of introducing yet more characters, what if she is the daughter of the Merovingian and Persephone? What a twist that would have been. Under their smug, smuggler facades, the Merovingian and Persephone, by their own free will, have a daughter that they protect more secretly than the Keymaker. This gives their characters far more meaning, depth, and
purpose.
Shut up, you exploded.
So, is Neo actually the one? Is it Smith? Is it Sati? Is it this guy?
No.
From what we can gather between the thick layers of this complex plot, Neo is the one because that is what he was meant to be. Smith becomes the antithesis of the one and serves his purpose. And meanwhile, in the background, Sati is the miracle of life in the Matrix and the Oracle's ultimate treasure. Holy shit, this was a lot to take in, but when looking at the whole trilogy, you can see why people consider the latter half failures. The overall story of the sequels is a surprisingly deep tale of love and free will persevering in a system of total control. But most of that is lost in a web of too many characters, a rough balancing act of plot points, and too little time developing the script.
The Matrix sequels are also a victim to their own brand. The unprecedented popularity of the film's effect on the cultural zeitgeist made the production of these films an uphill battle. At its heart, the first film is a superhero movie, and the sequels attempted to examine this paradigm further, but stumbled, and in some cases, tripped flat on their face like 40 times in a row. Where the first film might have had some clunky moments, the sequels make their points with a sledgehammer.
It is done. I'm the Alpha of your Omega. I am the beginning of your end.
To which the Wachowskis even admitted in the Path of Neo video game.
At this point, it's martyr time. Now maybe that works in a movie, but in a video game, the Jesus thing is, well, lame. Really lame.
However, the sheer craftsmanship that went into the making of these films in every aspect is mind-blowing from an art direction. The special effects, some of them, the sound design, and Davis's unbelievable score that is packed to the brim with orgasms. I should really read the script before I start saying things. God damn it, Robert.
Sorry, Dick. Now just imagine the same amount of immense talent, but with some extra time to flesh out the script. We probably would have a trilogy of classics. But alas, they are what they are, and we have to enjoy them as they are. It's admittedly difficult to see the true beauty of the sequels through the quagmire of their faults, but we say give them another go with our points in mind. And how you watch them from here is a choice we leave to you.
Okay, bye.